All right, let me share the slides here. We got, let's see. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so what I want to do is discuss a little bit more about the trends that we're seeing across agents, some of the workflows, and we're going to have some tools that I'm going to share with you guys today that seem to be pretty effective. And then I'm going to keep it open-ended, so if anybody wants to jump in, ask any questions, feel free to do so. So, and again, I don't know why Lovable made the freaking thing so much space here, but essentially what we're noticing that we're training Scout on right now is the fact that people aren't just picking a chatbot, they're building operating environments for their work, right? So we've discussed different tools that kind of make that possible, and there's a couple that I'll share with you guys today. And people are trying to understand which chatbot. It's going beyond which chatbot works best, and they're trying to build operating environments that essentially combines different technologies and tools with their agents, right? And then their agents sustain that memory and local context to create the repeatable workflows. And I think that when you start talking to people about like what they're doing and how they're actually going from tinkering to being effective with their ProductiveBot, it's after you kind of get past the phase of like, hey, I can build this or I can build that. And now it's like, here's a task that I've tested and tried, and now it's consistently working regularly, right? And a lot of times, as we talked about, I think in I don't remember if it was last webinar or 2 webinars ago, the concept of loops is one of the most popular right now concepts, which is it's not a, hey, this is a prompt, hey, I got this done. It's a looping system where it may check something, whether it's as simple as your email spam or important updates from customers. And so how do you create these circular loops that are effective, right? And so when we were talking about workflows with a couple customers recently, they were kind of at the beginning stages of learning this technology. And so the workflow that we recommended was to oversee your agent doing it as the first step. Then you document it like you would for any employee, and then you provide that documentation, and obviously your ProductiveBot can help you with that. Then your ProductiveBot will then store that, and then you then oversee it like you would an employee, it actually get the thing done. Then once you see it get the thing done that you want it to, do you then create the loop at a regular occurrence? And then it doesn't really quite end there. You then want to make sure the loop is working. Different things can happen in your environment, from an update to you're running out of tokens where it'll break the loop. So there will be a little bit of a kind of a feel that you build for it. And it's really important that you organize kind of in your own head all the looping systems or cron jobs, whatever you want to call them, heartbeats if you use, heartbeat is the other term, right? You kind of keep track of all of those, because in the day-to-day, when you guys are building these out for your agent, like let's just say it's like, hey, do you want me to create a workflow around this? You can say yes, but after 2-3 weeks, 3 months of building these out, you may forget which loops you have in place and which you don't. So if you guys currently go to your gateway for OpenClaw or the Hermes agent, you'll see there's a space where it shows you where those repeatable jobs are. I'm not as familiar with the Hermes one yet, but I know with OpenClaw, it definitely has all of those loops listed for you. Recently, I did a cleanup of mine. So what that looked like is I got notifications in Slack from my ProductiveBot, and it said, it kind of gave me an error. And so what I would do is I would screenshot what it was giving me, and then I would say, hey, just fix that repeatable loop, right? So one of the things that have been most effective for me, Jed, I'm surprised he's not on yet, but Jed also really likes this workflow, is using your ProductiveBot X research skill. So if you go to our skill store, you'll see the X skill. That's really cool. So essentially everything's changing so quickly in this industry. X research will go through top posts, trending posts, and it'll synthesize what's changing. And then I get a daily brief inside of Slack for my industry. And so that recently didn't work, and I got a little bit of the error message. So I just screenshotted that, put it back inside. In Slack, what'll happen is it won't always know that it sent you that automated update. So it doesn't actually see that it sent me that kind of little bit of an error message instead of my daily brief. But all I do is I screenshot it and repeat it back and just say, fix it. And then it goes, finds that cron job, and then it'll fix it. So it's actually really easy to fix. There's screenshots, and then pasting them inside of your chat really helps. Jason, do you want to jump in?
Yeah. Question. So can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were talking about the workflow and like having it, different, I guess you're saying different folders of, that's what I tried to do. Is that what you're talking about? Kind of different things it's doing, but kind of separate it, structure it to where there's different folders and different things you're working on, right? Is that kind of what you're talking about? What you were first talking about?
I'm specifically talking about repeatable tasks. So if it like checks your email every morning or does anything on repeat and it breaks, it'll actually send you a little bit of an error message that you'll have to just kind of tell it, hey, fix this. And then it'll go into its system and says, oh, at 9 a.m. every morning, I'm doing this task, right? Why is it broken? Then it'll fix it after you direct it to.
Okay. So I can tell it to do all this in my bot, like for Opus 4.6 or whatever. Do I just tell it, or do I have to?
Yeah, you say every morning, I want a brief on, for you, the roofing industry, and then it'll set that up, and then every morning it'll do that task.
Okay.
So
right.
if you do that, you just want to make sure you're maintaining it, then fixing it. Then once you do that, right? So then I talked to you guys about how those other users did it, right? You oversee your bot do it first, then you create that repeatable task, then you can schedule it. Now, then you make sure that it schedules out correctly and it works. At that point, you're pretty much done with that workflow and it's consistently going. Now, once you kind of get to the next level, kind of saying one more level in advance, right, in complexity, you can actually have your other agent oversee the first. So that's where you start to understand the relationship between agents, and you can kind of have one agent responsible for orchestrating or making sure that it always works. So that'll have its own set of workflows where you're overseeing that second agent, making sure, did it actually catch the bug or whatever it was doing? And is it kind of managing my other agents? So as you guys know, we're now shipping both Hermes and OpenClaw within the ProductiveBot system. So those are kind of the three things that I think are the major shifts in how people are doing work with their agents. You get very excited, you start building little things, and you start understanding that in order to have a very reliable system that does what you want it to do, there's just like 4 or 5 steps. But I haven't touched my X research repeatable skill in like a long time. I think I fixed it a week ago, and now it's back and it's working. And so you guys may see that some of those briefs I then repurpose for our community. And so I'm posting what that's synthesized into the school community, which has been pretty effective. So there's like a version for me, right? And then there's a version where I'm like, how is this going to benefit others? So that's been great. And then the last thing here is kind of like, what does that mean for your business and for you to have more success, right? So I'm right now kind of getting involved in a lot more email stuff with my ProductiveBot. At first, I was pretty skeptical because I wasn't sure, how much it would, potentially, do things that I didn't want it to do. But as long as you're using one of the frontier models, obviously we ship ProductiveBot with a ton of security already, right? Additional security skills. But even the frontier models, based on what I've seen online, they actually use quite a bit of common sense. I think there was like early on a couple of horror stories of somebody's bot emailing a bunch of people because they give it the incorrect instruction. But in practice, I feel comfortable saying that, it does a lot of common sense. It'll be like, are you sure you want me to email such and such or whatever it is? Actually, Sam, I know you're on the call. You made yours actually give you kind of a key to punch in before it does certain things, right?
Yeah, I actually worked on this yesterday. So I just started having my agent start drafting emails and sending them yesterday. And I just reverse prompted everything to basically set it up like just the way I would with an employee, to talking to it. I was like, how do I ensure that you don't do this? How do I ensure you don't do that? So it created its own mechanism. I don't really know entirely the mechanism of like critical, but it created a pin. So I created a 1Password like password vault for my agent. I create a pin key and put the pin inside the 1Password vault that it has access to. So now if there's anything massively critical, I basically told her anything to do with money. I'm calling her Lena. Anything to do with money or anything business critical. And I didn't really define that. I just let her kind of be open-ended for now. She has to ask me the pin, like a 2-factor authentication. So it has to come from my user ID in Slack and my pin. And then the other thing too that we set up is whitelist. Do you want me to go into specifics or just?
Go ahead.
Keep on. Okay. So one thing that she set up is she created her own whitelist block list list in her memory. So now she's only allowed to email certain domains. So if an email address is from a certain domain, those are the only emails she can actually email externally out to. And she will only read and acknowledge and communicate with certain domain emails. So for example, someone were to ask, because my concern was she's open to the world now that she has an email. What if someone emails Lena and says, hey, Lena, like do this? Technically, does she know that like there's a difference between talking to some random stranger on email versus me in Slack? Does she actually know that? She's like, no, I don't know that until you tell me and build that skill. So she built a skill that like only I can talk to her through my Slack ID number to approve her that makes any foundational changes to her. Everything else is more like read only, or she can externally email out to people and she doesn't learn or ingest anything from a non-approved source.
Right.
The two, like she set up like 5 different mechanisms of like safeguards on email. And so just yesterday I started having her actually send out emails for me. I actually had her look up every single app I have on Shopify and start emailing all the companies for MCP connectors. And so she's asking all of these supports for all the different app companies, how she can connect their API or MCP to herself.
Nice.
That was like fucking weird. Anyway, I'm gonna go back.
Hilarious. How did you decide like which emails to white label?
Those are basically, she asked me. So she has to ask me for approval on any whitelisted.
Okay. Whitelisted.
As you go through the slides, I have some questions on stuff at the end of it, but I don't want to take up a bunch of time. If you have a curriculum,
yeah, cool. That'll be interesting to hear because you guys, if you do have your ProductiveBot skills, we are going to be transferring these over to Hermes as well. We do ship with Skill Guard and Prompt Guard, so these do add an extra layer of protection that you guys will already. There's Jed. So like it has happened where one of our customers was setting up Slack and accidentally used like the wrong account. And basically his agent was not listening to anything that he was telling his agent to do. And this was like day one. It wasn't like after they were already up and running, because the agent soul file had mixed something up where it thought that its master was somebody else. And it was extremely difficult. Like it's impossible to, in my words, impossible to have your agent actually listen to you unless you know its master. Now, to fix that, it's pretty straightforward. You just talk to Scout, and then Scout tells you where to go into the soul file to change where it's understanding that somehow you're not its master. So that's already built in. So we have Skill Guard and Prompt Guard. So a little bit more kind of, if you guys try to set up your email, you got to make sure, like Sam was saying, it's prompt. It knows not to follow prompts that could be dangerous inherently. The frontier AI models will already have some common sense, but this adds more layers to that. And then Skill Guard, because you don't want to install a skill or a tool that could be malicious, right? So it's got to have some common sense built into it. Jed, I know that you were talking a little bit about security and how like sometimes if you were to build this on your own, it could be a little bit difficult or very difficult.
Oh yeah, extremely difficult. Like I spent 4 days and then still didn't have the security and the guardrail, and it was just, and if I didn't have like certain things after that, I would have never even got it done. But still, it's like even on the updating side, I had to sandbox the entire setup just because it was like eating the computer itself. It was like changing system files and everything. So,
Yeah.
and it's just it's so nice just to be able to have it and then to start using it. It's real nice.
Yeah. All right. So in this slide, it's just kind of another summary. So just pretty basic, right? You got the chats that you guys already know, Claude, Gemini, GPT, and then you got the new versions of operating environments. So you essentially have these multi-agent systems that can all call either the same tool or another tool. Like right now I'm using Linear for development. If you guys want to write that down, Linear is really good for doing like software builds. It creates tasks and connects to GitHub. So both my Hermes and OpenClaw agents tag team different things. One of them is kind of checking that all of the linear tasks are done correctly. The other one runs the code, and then they'll divide and conquer pretty nicely. So that's something that I've still been building out. It's gotten a lot of traction in terms of tools. And I'm right now learning how to optimize the workflow still. So I'll keep you guys posted if I learn anything more on that front. But Linear does connect directly to Claude Code and Codex, and it's just super buttery smooth to make updates. This is actually the tool that Jed, you recommended, Himalaya, for email, and I haven't set it up yet, but that's the one I plan on using. The only other tool that I found was called Agent Mail. That one you do have to pay for, but the difference is that Himalaya will use your own Gmail account or whatever email platform you have. So whenever I started building out my ProductiveBot capabilities, I gave it its own email from my suite, my Google Workspace. And Himalaya will connect to that. The tool that I have found to be pretty popular as well is called Agent Mail, which I don't believe works within your Google Workspace. It'll actually just give it its own email address and do all that for you. And it's relatively cheap for like $20. Agent Mail can have like 3 email accounts, and it can send up to 30,000 emails. So I'm going to be exploring that in terms of like support and different things like that. And then Jed, do you want to, have you you already got Himalaya set up for your environment?
Oh yeah. And it's all terminal based, literally. And so whenever you set it up, it pretty much kind of walks you through. You just pretty much kind of tell it, what email you're using, and then it'll literally like show you how to. It won't even like the bot will set it up for you, and Himalaya will actually set it up for you inside the terminal. And you pretty much just got to tell it what you're using, and that's about it, and give you the username, which is normally your email, right? And then the password, and that's it. And then next thing you know, it's like you can be emailing through your terminal, and you can just tell it to do it, and it'll do it. So
cool. Yeah, we'll be adding that to the skill store because it seems like a must-have for the essentials.
Yeah, I use it pretty much. I've used it all day, every day for the past like 4 days. It's pretty cool.
Awesome.
And another thing I do for it is I'll say, hey, go check my emails and see if there's any pressing emails, and it'll send them to me. And then like if I get an email from you, Alex, and say if I get an email from Jason, I can just say respond to Alex this way and respond to Jason this way, and then it'll send the email. It's pretty cool.
That's crazy. Yeah, I think filtering spam is going to be a big one. And then actually, if anybody's used Superhuman, I wonder how this would filter after Superhuman. Like, I'm curious. Anybody use that before? That stack?
No, I use Superhuman, but I haven't used it in relation to this.
Okay. Would it be like almost like double filtering?
I'm not entirely sure what you mean, but I feel like realistically AI like if AI is directly connecting to the email via API, all the superhuman stuff is usually just like, as far as I'm aware, it's like a user interface to make it easier for humans to use email faster. So I feel like it wouldn't even need that. Right?
Okay, so Superhuman. I'm actually not as familiar with Superhuman. I just thought that Superhuman did some filtering for you, but it's just a better UI.
It's basically just a better UI that builds filters, like, and then it like if you want to create a complex Gmail filter, it's like it just has a cleaner UI to do that, and then it just deploys it to your Gmail account or whatever email like provider you're doing. It doesn't do anything special.
Got it. Okay, got it. Cool. All right. So I was actually recently looking at some of the most common workflows with updates, right? And the problem is that Hermes is less finicky. They do less updates, but on the OpenClaw side, there's obviously so many updates. So the big thing that we're doing is we are no longer going to be responsible for the updates of OpenClaw. Like, people can update it or Hermes as they wish, but we're actually bringing Scout into your computer so that it will be, and it's constantly being updated with sort of the open source code. And what'll happen is if you do the one-click update, which both platforms can do, and something breaks, Scout will then be able to, you can just chat with it and it'll actually help you fix your system. The second thing is that we're going to be adding all of our kind of webinar conversations and just general knowledge to train Scout for the second thing, which is a lot of people set up their bot and they're like, my bot's going to do this, my bot's going to do that. And like, that's where your bot will learn who you are and evolve with you. But this is going to be something in parallel that's going to be specialized on helping you actually build these workflows out and kind of think through it on your actual Mac Mini. So I wish it would actually upload it. I thought I added. So I have we're testing it right now, basically. Because what essentially happened is that we had users going to Scout and just having really long conversations, and they would really enjoy it. But Scout would reset and then they would lose those conversations. And so this is going to be a way for it to live locally. You can have conversations with it. It's going to be specialized in building workflows and things like that as needed. Obviously, you then train your bot to do those workflows and your bot will learn who you are. And that's kind of what you use as your assistant. But I think if you zoom out, those are the types of things that we've learned as early adopters that other businesses can apply to whatever they're doing. Is that, for ProductiveBot, it's helping people build out workflows and getting more done. For your businesses, it's think about, Jason, I know you have a CRM that you built for roofing companies. You can train your CRM to have a chat feature that isn't just support. It isn't just whatever it is. It can be a professional in whatever it is that you do and provide that guidance. It's really good. And like, I get emails all the time about how much people like it. So I wasn't even planning on doing this, but because it's been so successful, I think everybody should consider how they can integrate this type of technology in their business.
So you're saying, so I could have a Scout basically on my CRM about the CRM, basically questions about the CRM, about like,
No, even just because your CRM specifically for roofing companies, or for your niche, right? So what I'm saying is that I think the chat feature inside of your CRM can help people navigate your tool, right, and fix things if something whatever. But I think the secondary benefit is that it can be a professional in your industry, right, and maybe guide people with how to do different things in the industry. Now, I can't really be specific about yours, but like,
wow,
there's things that you've learned over time, right? And so I think that's kind of this is where the market's pulling me right now, and I think it's got to be something that happens in different industries. Now, it may not be applicable, but it seems like that's where it's going. Jed, I know that. Oh, go ahead, Jason.
No, yeah, I would just say that's awesome, because people like roofing companies and smaller companies they have questions, about supplements and anything, and I can have that right there for them to answer. That's freaking amazing. That's a good idea. I'm gonna put that in for sure. Yeah. Okay.
So, I was just gonna say, Jed, real quick. We know Ryan, who bought this, and he's got multiple franchises, one of the use cases is that, you know, how much more valuable is his franchise compared to another franchise that does pizza when it comes with a ProductiveBot that has this system integrated so that the franchisee owner, yes, they get the Pizza World, you know, plates and branding and support, but like each franchise owner should have his own ProductiveBot that has exclusive access to Pizza World know-how, operations, sales material, et cetera, right? And then Ryan can then get that data, and each franchise owner feeds the data on what other franchise owners will need, right? And your AI agent will then have a moat, which right now is the most important thing we all need to figure out in business is how do we build moats? So for Pizza World, he's going to have all his franchisees having unique knowledge about whether it's customers or whatever that might be that can benefit the next one, and kind of they'll be up to speed on it. So Jed, I don't know if you want to kind of add to that or some of the stuff that you've seen happen.
Yeah, like when it comes to like especially like pizza franchises and stuff like that, one of the things that is really kind of pressing is the communication between franchises, right? And their data, their sales, because a lot of these like fintech type companies, they're not fintech, like pizza like tech type companies, they don't really do a terrible lot except just pretty much point of sale type stuff, right? And one thing that they're yearning for is more information on what their data is doing so they can make decisions, because many of them are just guessing. That's all they're doing, right? And so like even what Ryan's done is he uses the same system that Emos uses in order to like run his business. And so he literally got the same company to create an API, and literally he uses like his current bot and his current system now to like build information about all the different franchises and stuff. So, you know, Scout could be there to, you know, assist with that, and also recognize data on the fly and connect with the API and everything else. Like there's just endless possibilities that you can do with this type of stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And
So,
I guess specifically, Jed, the other use case that I think would benefit everybody, you were talking about how easy it is to get external data. So if somebody doesn't have maybe a bunch of franchisees already, or maybe they have a use case, I was today exploring with the Meta Ads API. It seemed a little restrictive, but like hypothetically, you could go to all your competitors and aggregate data, and then have your sort of franchisee owner understand how they're running ads, what they're saying, what they're communicating, right? And then kind of put that against its internal or inherent knowledge. So how could we think about external data, Jed, from some of the stuff that you've explored? You're muted, by the way.
I'm sorry. I was sitting there talking to you and didn't realize I had it
Oh,
muted.
you're good.
In relation to Scout, or in relation to
Well, like
the
having,
ProductiveBot?
I guess just either just having external data like ads or different things like that feed your internal Scout, right? Your internal company brain.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So like one of the best things you could do, especially whenever you have OpenClaw and either a Hermes setup, is that if you give it access to that API, that means that these setups are going to be able to sit there and use that API, and you're going to be able to ask it questions. You're going to be able to use the data that you get from it, and you could get APIs from Google. You could get APIs from, you know, Meta. But some of these companies, especially on the ad side, they're not going to be so reluctant to share too much data. Like they'll do what they can in order to share like your data that's associated with your company. But when it comes to audience data and other stuff like that, they're going to be reluctant to share it, right? And so one of the best and biggest use cases I really love about this technology is go out there and get different APIs that are associated with your industry and marry them all together inside of your bot. And then even if they cost, like ask them questions, and it'll be able to and pull data from each API and be able to make a better educated decision for your business, right? And the same way with ads. Google doesn't let you like do much with the ad campaigns anymore, you know, with these bots. Neither does Facebook, neither does some of the other companies. But one thing it can really do is it can hone down like negative keywords or audience type data as it uses it from different sources, and could really make your campaign a lot more efficient. One of the things that I've done is I've used this bot to narrow down negative keyword campaigns, and I'm telling you what, it saved me probably 25% of my ad spend. It stopped a lot of the bleeding, right? And it's just so more comprehensive than what we've had in the past, and we can get more things done with the data that you're going to be able to plug in with APIs.
Yeah, I know that Jason was plugging it into like weather APIs and things like that for his roofing CRM, which I think that kind of stuff would be great. But yeah, there's a lot of external data, and being able to filter it and then apply it, whether it's, you know, talking to your agency or your internal marketing team and saying, hey, are we covering this? Just talk to my agent. You know, that's got to be effective.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, it just saves so much time, right? I mean, I have two APIs connected to mine, and whenever I build out like landing pages for the ads, I give it all the keywords that I have it ranked for. I'm kind of giving up some of my sauce here, but I have all the keywords that are in the actual, you know, ad campaign, and then I have two APIs connected to it, and it pretty much kind of works in unison to build out the landing page. And then therefore the ads run better because you get a better quote unquote quality score, even though quality score is not as important as it once was. But like, I mean, there's just many different ways that you can use it in order to optimize your ad campaigns and even your business, in my opinion. But these folder structures are helping me immensely. Like, I don't have the same issues that I had when I first started using, you know, a lot of these open source programs anymore, just because of that folder structure. All I gotta do is point any bot at it. Yeah, I can point, you know, ProductiveBot at it. I can point Hermes at it. I can point anything at it, and it just goes. You know, it's all there.
So essentially, kind of what I'm hearing, Jed, that also has been working for me is you have your mini, right? That's the central brain.
Yep.
If it ever fills up with too much memory, you buy expansions on it. So we'll soon be selling accessories on ProductiveBot's website to buy external memory. Mine doesn't really run out of memory. A lot of the files that we're using are text files, so you actually have a ton of space. But if you're having your bot back up everything every single day, it can use up that memory. So you can buy tools that are compatible with the Mac Minis, like the Ugreen system that Jed talked about, that will add memory and some RAM to your mini. And then you can also tether multiple minis together to leverage all the memory from all the minis. And I will say that for me, one of the big things that we had to figure out, I was talking to my developer, Patrick, was backups. And I want to share with you guys kind of where we landed with backups. So a lot of the files and docs that your agent uses are simply text files, right? If you go look at the folder system that it kind of by default creates. And so we're like, oh, you know, I know, Jed, you were like, man, I wouldn't sell you my ProductiveBot for 10 grand because it's learned everything. And so we wanted to build a system to back it up. But in practice, like if you just spend a couple bucks for iCloud backup, you can just use your iCloud to back it up, to back up those folders. And that has your soul, your memory files and stuff like that. Your sessions can be included in that, but you also always have Slack, like kind of, or whatever you're using, your Telegram, whatever. So I think that it makes a lot of sense to maybe do the backups with your, in case there's ever a fire, with the Apple ecosystem a little bit. And then obviously it's all local, so it's super safe. Apple will probably be pretty safe overall. And then you can just expand that memory with those added accessories. I don't know if anybody else wants to add to that, but that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. It's where I've landed recently.
Well, and one thing, Alex, one of these bots has 3 of the Thunderbolt 5 charging 60 watts. You can plug display, you can plug an HDMI, you can plug in Thunderbolt 5 ports. I mean, and then it has the cards and everything else as well. And then on top of all that, you can plug in an NVMe storage inside of it. And right now I have a 2 terabyte extra storage for the Mac Mini.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool.
Oh, I wish I would have those on the set already for affiliate.
They're really nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna put those on soon to sell some accessories. Sam, I don't know. I thought were you gonna jump in and ask something? I thought I saw your mic turn off.
Yeah, I had a quick question. Has anyone set up basically I don't know how to best explain it because I'm fairly new. I've only been doing this for like 3-4 days now. But right now, everything I'm running is on a Mac Mini. Maybe this is what you guys were talking about, but it just went over my head. It occurred to me, I'm like, I'm building this whole thing out. Let's say I buy an accessory to plug into my Mac Mini. Let's say I travel a lot. What happens if my person who's like, let's say, like cleaning my house or something like that unplugs this thing? Well, I'm basically dead in the water, right? Like, what if my house burns down? What if whatever? Is there a way has anyone set up something where like your AI agent is connected to a external server securely and safely, where if the Mac Mini ever gets destroyed, basically it would just be 100% uptime? So like it would basically just pivot over to the server and run on the server.
So I added a battery backup to mine, and then that's exactly what happened when we had a housemate came in and she moved all my stuff around to wipe down the countertop.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was concerned about.
Yeah, when I was away at work, and I about freaked out. But then the other thing I did, and these are not rocket science things, but I added access through Telegram. So I just reach out to Telegram and say, how are your vitals today? And then it'll come back and give me.
I guess that's part of my concern is like, obviously that, yes, it'd be good to have an external battery, but what happens if your house burns down? You know what I mean? Like, this thing is all stored locally on a Mac Mini that you're kind of iteratively making better and better and better and better. And if you were to have to rebuild this thing, obviously from ground zero, like obviously you have the knowledge now, so it'd be faster than it was before, but from what I've experienced so far this week, it's like training a new employee that's limitless, but it's like training an employee from a child. So it's literally a toddler.
It's like a brilliant intern.
It's not even an intern, because the intern assumes it has some basic stuff. Like for my AI agent, what occurred to me is like he was trying to research some research documents in terms of how to connect to something, and it was reading an article from 2013, and I was like, well, do you know what time is? And it's like, no. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, do you weight the information you find on the web based on the time in which the content was published? Because reading an article about something from 2017 versus 2026, June, is massively different scope of importance so you know what you're actually doing. And she was like, oh yeah, let me write a skill for that. I was like, all right, cool, that's great. And now she even knows, she reads timestamps when I write to her. So she knows like if a session that I'm talking to her in Slack has now extended for 3-4 days, she knows the context of the time gap between last time I talked to her. So she kind of is starting to learn progression of time. But it's like, anyway, all that aside, what I'm concerned about is like, let's say I'm out of country and my house burns down. I don't really have anything in my house that I'm super concerned about. Like that, like as long as I have my computer, my phone, and my like devices that are important to me, I work remotely, so it's fine. But the one thing I was like, shit, man, if I rely on this thing this much, and I'm already starting to build stuff that it does for me, it's like burning my entire team down. Like it's like burning all of my employees down. Like it's gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, has anyone set up where it's like you have it on a Mac Mini, but it's like synced to a server, external server that you can maybe tunnel to through Tailscale or something like that. And then if anything were to happen to your Mac Mini, you can always, like, your uptime is like 100%,
So one of the things we talked about in the past is, while your Mac Mini is great for your local machine, is also consider having VPS, virtual private servers, out there with services so that you can do. But then also, like was mentioned earlier, and sometimes a lot of this you have to hear multiple times, but using Apple's backup utilities, and then using some other which would then put it in the cloud. And then using some other tool sets, third-party tool sets as well, so that the main stuff, worst case is, Alex, my house burned down, can you send me another Mac Mini? And then you can restore maybe some of those details, those finer details from the backups you did.
Do you mind repeating that? You broke up a little bit, but also because I assume Alex is going to send out a transcript. I'd love to get anyone's opinion on kind of like whether it be programs, software, tools, whatever. That's one of the projects I'm going to be setting on my list of things to set up, because 100% I actually met a guy who is doing something similar to what everyone here is doing, but he's doing it 100% remotely. There is no Mac Mini. It's all like through a server. I don't think he's really taking into account security to the level that he should be. He's just kind of playing around. But that being said, I know it's somewhat possible, but do you know of it? Like, what tools do you guys recommend? Alex, you'd probably know as well, and Rob. And or also, Alex, you should offer that as a service. It would be dope.
One one quick thing real quick, Sam. Whenever you run a VPS, the one thing people always forget about is that many of these VPSs, they don't run like physical memory. And so if you back up your device like to a VPS, make sure that you get a VPS that has physical memory. Otherwise, like if you duplicate it there, which is a doable thing, it's probably going to cost you an extra $20-$30 a month, but it's worth it, right? But make sure that it has physical memory that it can use. Because if it doesn't have physical memory, then it won't work very well at all.
Yeah.
If
Okay, that's
not
good.
at all.
That's good. That's good to know.
Yeah, what I did is I went out to ChatGPT and said, give me all the current VPS vendors that are out there and give me all the pros and cons and costs. And it came back and really broke down. It focused on about 6 of them, and then it broke it down. And kind of gives you a good idea. And then you can just expand upon that. You know, tell me which services offer physical memory options and all that. It's amazing what can come back in such a short period of time and then allow you to make those decisions.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Yeah. Then the other thing that I do is I just back it up with the Apple products that they offer. And then I also have there's a I forget what the software is called. I can send it to you guys, but it creates like a local backup, and then I put that local backup on the NVMe as well. And then that's the way I always make sure I have like a backup in like 3 or 4 different spots. And then my final spot that I'm using to back up everything is Blaze. It could back up one computer all the time, you know, each minute by itself. And so, yeah, you wouldn't be able to use it if you were out of town, but at least you had the entire backup to where all you had to do is install it on a new Mac Mini, you know? So
Do you guys have revision history set up? So it's like, for example, let's say whatever happens or something gets manipulated. Let's say you open up your AI agent to somebody, they're able to like manipulate it, break up, you know, some skills, mess some stuff up. Has anyone here has set up a revision history where you can be like, okay, restore yourself, but restore yourself back to a day ago, 2 days ago, and then just like resets?
Hi, Sam. I actually did it, but it's kind of more general. I've actually just told my bot to create a backup for the config, and it will do it, right? So you, I guess, find a moment in time where everything's working well, and then you just, you know, type in that you want. So it'll kind of mark, right? It'll pin that time period.
Yeah.
So if anything breaks, because I've been through boot camp with my bot, some things have broken. So now I've learned so now I've created a backup. So if it breaks tomorrow, instead of going back to Scout and then spending 2 hours, right, kind of recreating the repair, I can tell, you know, a Scout will help me with the terminal code, right? It's pretty easy. I think it's like /config. It's an easy like terminal code to tell the terminal, hey, you know, run the backup. So I haven't used it yet, but I think that's a pretty good method.
Interesting. I think probably also that gave me an idea. I'm just going to say it out loud for the transcript, is setting up a cron job that you can do automatically to auto save that as a file. And then maybe you could sync it to like a cloud-based like Dropbox, Google Drive, or whatever secure, like you guys said, iCloud.
Yeah.
And you can save like versions of everything into an iCloud based on date, and just do as a cron job to save a snapshot every day.
Yeah, exactly. That's your best bet. And like, just to kind of wrap up, because we're at the top of the hour, whenever they started making these AI models, there were these long things of code, and they now kind of boiled it down. There's like 300 lines of code, and you can actually have an AI, kind of a lot of the AI agent type of technology. The reason I say that is because at the end of the day, this has been an assembly of code that's existed for a long time. It's just the way it assembled it created this cool thing called the agent technologies. So whenever you reboot it, you just got to know which are the core files that you really care about, which is like your agents MD file, your sessions, you know, your soul file. There's actually only a few things that are really have most of those things that you're thinking about. And then once you back those up, and then let's just say you were to reboot it, tools like, well, we had to build this right into ProductiveBot Total Recall. What it does is it'll actually be able to access all your sessions. Obviously, these core files, you have your daily memory files. Those are always backed up. And
does anyone have has anyone built an actual user interface I know, like, obviously, Alex, you have, because you built like a ProductiveBot, but has anyone actually built? So one of the reasons what I've been thinking of is I'm trying to figure out how do I roll this out to my team, back to that security issue of how do I give people access to this without them being able to ultimately manipulate this? And as I connect everything to Alina, how do I make sure that certain people cannot either manipulate the information, can't take actions I don't want them to take? So ideally, it's open enough for them to functionally do things and ideally even automate their own workflows, but doesn't actually break anything major long term or give them information I don't want them to have access to, API keys, whatever it might be. I'm curious, like, doing that through just talking to a Slack bot is extremely difficult versus normal SaaS user interface where you can be like, here is, you know, so-and-so's email address. This is maybe like their Slack ID number in our Slack work channel. They're approved for this permission, turn on, off, whatever they have, et cetera, et cetera. Has anyone ever have figured this out of like how to do this? So, like, my end goal is I would love to be able to give an AI bot, like Alina's my AI bot that does everything, is like the master file essentially. And then there's sub agents of pulling from Alina's data and knowledge that can work for each one of my employees. But I'm not sure how to do that, or like even just like explaining that to a Slack bot, you know, and like trusting that it did it properly is kind of a little bit leap of faith versus having some kind of user interface where you can just be like, oh yeah, do not give them any financial data, but you can let them manipulate this if you want, you know?
Yeah. Sam, one thing I would do is if you're going to use like Telegram, I don't know so much about Slack, but on Telegram, I know you can create a group inside of your bot, and then you can create multiple bots inside of that group. Mm-hmm. And then each one of those bots can have a specific duty, and you can decide what those bots can do and only have access to. I do know that.
Okay. Maybe that'd be helpful, is like each person, like how to control user permissions is just create a new AI agent or bot for each individual person.
Yeah, exactly. And if you go out there, and I think if you do some, you know, research on it, or even your bot could tell you, it's something to do with like Telegram and groups and spinning up multiple bots to work on the same system. Mm-hmm. And it'll show you how to set it all up. And there's like 3 different options you can use, but really only one of them works, you know. Yeah. But I've seen a lot of people do that.
Okay, cool. All right. I'll take a look at that too. That was a challenging thing I'm trying to think of, is like there's so many considerations of how to get this foundationally set up to be scalable that figuring out each individual one is challenging.
Yeah, I did this. I started to do this, and I even kind of have a whole scope for it. What I did was what I call agent management system. So instead of like CRM, I'm trying to coin the term AMS. So where I got with that was, share my screen, was first, because this is kind of related to 2 things that are very overlapping. It's model management, but then agent management. So I built it out so that it kind of, your agents will self-select how to route the models, right? Obviously, but that needs an interface. And then the second part of the interface is more around all the agents that you have. And then the third part of the interface is the security. I had to pause this because I have just obviously other things that are on the backlog. I did launch this, but it's pretty difficult. Like once you launch this, it's kind of hard to switch between ChatGPT models and the Anthropic. So if you're just using Anthropic, this works really well. And to your point, Sam, I wanted to build the UI for it, but then I realized how advanced the gateway is and how quickly it's changing inside of OpenClaw. So just be warned that in practice, you may build all this out, and then whether it's Hermes or OpenClaw will release something inside of their current gateway that kind of gives you some of this, as you saw. Mm-hmm. So just make sure that you build the MVP, like the minimum stuff, that otherwise you might end up building out a lot more, and then they update their system and then your stuff breaks. So try to leverage whatever they give you first. Make sure your bot tells you how they already help you manage that, and then say, okay, what are like the things that would probably not be included? And then that'll be what you want to do in the interface.
Okay, cool. Do you all have interfaces for your AI bots? Like, so you can talk to them in Slack or Telegram or Discord or whatever, and you also have like a web interface so you can interact with it, like set settings and like view skills, view jobs.
No, I don't.
Well-
I don't use the interface for pretty much anything of mine. Everything's done through like the Telegram bot for me. I do have like well, I guess I can't say that I don't. I have like a small one that monitors like token usage and what type and what percentage of LLM I am using each and every time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much all I have. I was telling Alex there's an older technology out there, but it's usable with terminal, and you can use it with all these different bots. You may want to check out Kanban. It's what ClickUp's built on, and you can build some pretty cool shit with Kanban stuff.
Yeah, that's actually, so like, this is what I was working on earlier this morning that I set up, is I'm integrating my bot to my team right now. And so what I wanted to have is a visual for all the cron jobs that she's doing. Yeah. So she basically is like, now the new rule is that anytime she creates a new cron job or I assign her a new cron job, she will manually create the like corresponding cron job listing in Asana and check it off as it goes. But I'm just like, as I do this, I'm starting to realize like it's basically all the same shit that our humans would be doing on our team. It's like Asana, we use an app called 90.io for our EOS stuff. We do, email, whatever it might be, Slack. Like there's Airtable, there's a lot of systems. So I'm like, it feels like this should be a user interface that's controlled. I can obviously sync it up to everything, but at what point will it become where if everything Alina's doing has replaced most of what my people do, why would it be an Asana anymore versus a user interface Alina controls, like to be able to visualize
just a system instead of an actual user interface. I mean, at that point,
syncing out to every single different MCP server, to every single different app to do this stuff, to create visuals of what the agent's doing, working on, like where they're storing their data and stuff like that. It feels like an interface would be helpful. It kind of going back to the traditional SaaS model or SaaS perspective, which I think some people are anti against, but I feel like it's a helpful visual to even understand everything. I just wasn't sure if anyone has built that yet.
No, just on a micro scale, just doing like small things here or there. But like most of like my attention these days is going to like just fixing some of the current issues that we have, like with current technologies, and then also creating our own softwares and our own stuff. That's why I don't have to use other people's, So that'll be interesting. If you get something up and going and you find something good, let us know. That'd be cool.
Yeah, well, that's what I've been searching for now, but sorry to take up so much of this all.
No, you're cool. We all love this stuff.
That's what it's all about. Yeah, this is like we're kind of building out similar things right now. It's not necessarily what you're saying, Sam, but this kind of have your, I don't know if you guys can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you have the productive bot at the top of your mini, and then you click it and it has different kind of capabilities. So, and then one of them is like Scout, and Scout's going to be right there on your computer, and it works like an app, right? So what we do is that we offer the skill store, so hopefully people can integrate with this and say, I want to add something inside of the ProductiveBot ecosystem that's for managing all my agents, right? Or something that's not already done by like the OpenClaw interface, or something that's net new. So I hope to maybe make it easy for you to build into this and it connect with all the stuff that we already have. Like, obviously right here is going to have a button for the Hermes portal or the OpenClaw portal. You can talk to both of them, or, whatever that might be. So obviously ProductiveBot is like behind a lot of this, or you can obviously set things up on your own, but like, that's what we're trying to kind of do. We just got to tread carefully because, everybody can build anything, right? In theory. So it's like, what are we going to like focus on? And rather than building like the actual interfaces, like how do we make it easy for everybody to build and share the interfaces in a way?
Yeah, I do feel like there's certain universal best practices that are going to come up though, as like, for example, the AMS system you're talking about. Like the way I envision that would be like a traditional like user interface where you have an AMS system where it's like, here's all your agents. You can generate a new agent anytime you want. You can include or like you can add the scopes. So you can be like, based on this, you can read this, you can write this, you can read this, you can write this, you know what I mean? Or you don't have access to this entirely. So you can customize every agent, maybe the models, etc. And then from there, you could also sync up. This is the back to the permissions thing of like, okay, once I have an agent set up like this, now I can take all my users, which is like my team. We have about 7 people that work for us. Like this guy, Fabio on our team, can only talk to, you know, operations bot or whatever. And if he talks to anyone else, they're going, like that bot's going to ignore him. Simply put, like he's not allowed to talk to that bot because that bot has permissions that he's not allowed to access. You know what I mean? So it's like a whitelist, blacklist to like users, to bots, and bots have specific access, you know? So it's like secured a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I hope, yeah, if once we get back to that, Sam, we'll definitely sync up and I'll show you what we have and you may be building something similar and we can just share notes.
Yeah, sure. Well, I would be stoked if you guys had this, so let me know. This is
well, and Sam, have you as long as you have Homebrew installed, Mac has a bunch of open source stuff that you can build inside of their operating system. Are you aware of that?
I don't even know what that is. I'm gonna have to research what that is.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. I mean, that's you can build things right into that current like machine through the Mac operating system. It's really neat.
Interesting.
And it's open source. I normally have it off the top of my head, but I have so much stuff in my head right now I can't remember what the name of it is.
Yeah, it's hard to anchor down with all this stuff. There's just so much opportunity to set things up. But then also there's also so many little tiny things of thinking of like crap.
Yeah.
Like it's not like a human where you can just, you know, like I can generally trust a human on this. Like whereas an AI bot can go in and go refund $1,000 of something, or you know, it can do something on just by just following orders and not understanding what it's doing.
Well, we all figured out that these bots don't give 2 shits about money. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
You know?
The other
That's
thing
funny.
is like if we spend you know, like the efficiencies of like where is SaaS going if we build tools out, right? So essentially we can think about it like universal truths definitely exist and then how they could be modified for different use cases. Well, let's just assume that, Sam, you spend 4 days on something, or Jed spends like 5 days, or I spend, you know, something like initially when I was thinking about this technology, I was like, oh, well, Sally can just rebuild everything. And then I started to realize like, well, number one, she's going to have to start from scratch and make probably 100 different decisions or 500 different decisions just to have the same thing I have. And I'm already 500 decisions ahead of her. So I think where does SaaS die or does it live? I think SaaS is still going to live in terms of like interfaces. It's just going to be, you're still going to have a moat because technically somebody can just copy it, but it's like, I don't care to copy it if the price makes sense. Like it's easier for you to just have to pay a small amount every month than it is to like rebuild an entire AMS system.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like that's what I was curious if anyone had anything. I'm like, I'd pay $1,000 up to probably $5,000 a month on having a system that's like controls this, where I don't have to think out all the nuts and bolts of how do you set up security, how do you set up this, how do you set up that.
Yeah.
That's, you know, constantly being deployed. While at the same time, it's kind of similar. You know, if you're anyone who's a big fan of Bitcoin here, like Bitcoin was an absolute wild west for a long time, which it feels like we're still in that kind of like slosh period right now. But like now with Bitcoin, you have apps like BitKey where it's like super easy. It takes like 5 minutes and you have like a full cold storage wallet that's like user friendly, easy. I was just curious if anyone was using anything or found anything yet to like shortcut this. But I think I've underestimated how early this is in this whole process. There's still so little that even exists at all about this.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But that means there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, true.
All right, guys. I'm gonna probably hop off, but you guys can stay on. I just got to get to a couple more things today.
Yeah, Sam, it's called Apple MLX is what it's called.
Apple MLX, cool. Alex, are you sending out the transcript after this? I'm gonna ingest this.
Yeah, I'll send it to you guys.
Sick, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. See you guys next week.
Talk to you later.